So please welcome back to Justice Southbury, the leader of the Anti-Racism Coalition of Connecticut, Wayne Winston. All right, man. It's good to see you.
I tell you, Rick is a hardier guy than I am. You see all of this right here? Oh, man, listen. Real quick, some of you know already, I'm fortunate enough to have a program on the radio on WICC down in Fairfield County. If you're anywhere around Milford all the way to New York. My co-host is a Jewish woman who actually is a probate judge. When I first got asked to be on the show, because I was a regular caller, I'm like, there's no way they're going to let me and you be on together. So this is about the time with George Floyd. So I've been an activist for a long time. I've recently brought Rita Daniels, who's the great-great-grandniece of Harriet Tubman, last week to the Today Show in New York, and she stopped in Connecticut. I wanted to get her up here to Justice Southbury, but unfortunately her time schedule didn't allow. She had to fly out that Saturday morning. So I say this to say, when you have a media like news and you want to get it right, you have to do your research. I have to tell you that Justice Southbury is somebody, if you do research on, they have been incredible. I mean, some of you I've seen already from the last time I was here. I mean, the commitment that it takes to do what you do 3 years later, every week, no matter what, shows where your heart and your soul, and as a black man, as an activist, as a human being, I have to thank all of you for being here, whether there's 1 or 100. So I wanted you to know that's important. And I share that often in the places that I'm fortunate enough that I get to speak at. You know, talking about racism and calling it what it is, truly racism, is important. When Donald Trump ran, we used the term racism on the radio. We have like 750,000 listeners. There were people calling and says, hey, how are you going to call everybody racist? Well, I measure by where are the racist organizations that label themselves racist organizations. We know what Justice Southbury is. But if you are a part of neo-Nazis, if you're part of how many 100 some odd organizations that call themselves that, and you're in a certain party, and it's not the left, it's, quote, the right, then that tells you there's something going on with those people, and those happens to be the Republican Party, because they never separated themselves from conservatives and racists. There's a big difference between the two. So if you know anyone that's Republican, and I always ask them, how come you don't criticize the racists in your organization? You can't say that on January 6th, the men who are responding to the president's call to stand down, they weren't the Girl Scouts. It wasn't the Kiwanis Club. It wasn't any of these organizations that we know that are trying to make America better. They're registered, certified hate groups, even on their own individual websites. So is it any wonder when he runs for office and he's got that kind of support, all of a sudden we're starting to see what Rick was talking about, what I'm sure that you've all seen. We've been trying to get this message out and have people understand that racism is real, racial hatred is real. The position of black people in this country always gets down to we had a little bit different experience. Now let me say, I love this country. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else on the planet. America's a place where we can correct things, and people like yourselves help correct things. But from the root, we don't so much have an Ellis Island story. I can't say my great-grandparents came over with 5 cents or a nickel, then they opened the corner store, like so many of my Greek and Italian friends. So I understand that. Hard work, and they built this. At the same time, we came here, basically, the majority came on slave ships, and we were here just quite blatantly to work to build an America for the benefit of white Americans. Now, that's not your fault. That's something that happened, and we had laws to support it. We were labeled 3/5 of a person. Now, think about that. The Supreme Court named us 3/5 of a person just to make sure that we couldn't participate or partake in what all other Americans could, and they were making these wonderful lives. We had to have a 14th Amendment that said we are at least human beings. The 14th Amendment corrected the 3/5. We have someone in the White House that says we need to get rid of the 14th Amendment. I want to be able to say who should be an American or an American citizen or not. Due process, as you know, Rick's an attorney, that's all built, it's the very bones of America. It's the very bones that change these things so that we could all be seen at the very least as human beings. So that has been the struggle for black people in this country. Hey, just accept us as being the same as you. We are all human beings. So as you go through the years and you get to the Civil Rights Movement, what did we get out of the Civil Rights Movement? Well, first we denied generational wealth because what was given away in the late 1800s, you know, they had a land grab out in Missouri. All you had to do is be out there like 12 o'clock. You know, there's a river. Bring your family. Anything on the other side of that river, just go ahead, bring a stake, pot it in the ground, boom. You can have 10 acres or 100, whatever that was. We didn't get any of that, which is helpful today. And God bless you. I'm glad that you have it. But we didn't get that part. And when we did have places like it, it wasn't long before jealous people around would come in and burn it. And that's what happened with Tulsa, Oklahoma, and any number of these things that we're finding out about right now. There's a video with Tom Hanks. If you Google Tom Hanks and segregation, or Tom Hanks in Tulsa, Oklahoma, he does this whole thing and says, why didn't I know about this? Why didn't they teach me this in school? This is American history. Well, you know, I get it. If you're not like us, so to speak, it's an embarrassment to the country. Let's not talk about that. We have to bury that so our kids don't have anything to worry about. In Florida, Ron DeSantis passed a bill that says anything that upsets a white child in a school is banned. Let me say again, what you're teaching is upsetting my child, my white child, not making this up, then we cannot teach it. Schools were in turmoil. They were flipping over like, it's American history. How do you talk about it if you don't talk about the story of America? How do you get better if you don't fix what's wrong? If you're sick, how do you get better if you can't heal? If you just ignore it, it'll kill you. Now, there's different types of death. You know, some people want things to stay the same. And not since prior to the Civil Rights Movement, when you're getting to the 50s and the 40s, there's people that wanted to go back there. They have problems with gay people. They have problems with women. They have problems with every type of person that is not white. And they're pushing what they call the white male replacement theory. That is, where white males at the top of the food chain. Don't take this personal, guys. You own everything, you know. 96% of the wealth is owned by white guys, not black guys, you know. When I heard Donald Trump say there would have been no helicopter crash if it wasn't for DEI, and he says it's women, it's like, dude, not only are you horrible, you truly, if you paid attention at all, he pulled the whole card out. We're not talking about anyone other than wealthy white men, because he doesn't care about the farmers. He lied to everybody. He knew he needed to get voted in. He can't get voted. No matter how much money you have, you'll still only get one man, one vote. So when him and Elon Musk get together, They run one of the most effective campaigns, primarily on the internet, to change the mind and spread lies amongst us. A lot of people that you see on the internet, remember how you used to go to the store and you would find like the Daily Star, okay? On the way out, on the checkout, when you didn't have the internet, and you would have like the Connecticut Post or the Southbury, whatever. Well, those things are gone now because it costs too much. The people that used to read that stuff, they had aliens on them, and they had all the stuff about the superstars who were 10 of them sleeping together, somebody's dead. It was the most craziest thing. Once in a while, they get sued. Well, that's who's on the internet now. Those things are gone. And those people believe those magazines. If you know people who read that stuff, they believed it. Such and such is an alien. Elvis is still here. I mean, well, how can, it's 20, 30 years later, how can you look the same? I mean, maybe you know something I don't. Those people on the internet, and they're voters, and they know that's the people that you're trying to affect. I'm very pleased and happy with Justice out there. I cannot tell you enough. People like yourself are what makes the difference in understanding the truth and understanding for my uncle or my dad who's passed on. There's trauma that they have that we don't talk about. I'm sharing something within our community we don't talk about. If you're in your 80s, you lived through that time when you were 15 and 10, and you had to drink from that separate water fountain, that you could not go into a place. And it didn't matter what your job was. It didn't matter how nice you were or how tall or light. You just weren't going to sit next to a white person. And it went beyond that. It went to the point where they made sure that they felt that you were nobody and you were never going to be anything. Imagine that psychological trauma to a whole race of people. So it was in spite of, and they don't talk about it too much. Personally, I've talked to my family, and please do that for your own family, because depending on where you came from, there's always some type of challenge in there. But as I started talking to my relatives, and this happened about 4 years ago, as people started getting old and older, and they passed on, going, man, my aunt, I remember she knew something about the family tree, and I'm trying to think of it, and she's gone. And what they would wind up sharing, this happened about 7 times, was when they grew up, something that happened when they were younger. And it was not a pleasant experience. But somehow you have to put that aside. So I'm saying that, so America is a little different for us based upon that. And we know that those people are still real. And I need, before I close, to say this. Don't tolerate hate. These things I see, we underestimate what true hatred could do. I couldn't imagine riding into a city or going up to somebody's house, bringing them out because they're white, and beat them to death. This is what we're talking about. Human beings saying, hey, that's fine. Then no jury will convict you up until the mid-70s. You get to court, they go, okay, Emmett Till, as horrible that was. None of those guys went to jail. In fact, basically, it was a done deal. And then they go to Look magazine, tell their whole story. Yeah, we did it. Nothing happened to them. So it's dangerous. And these things that we have to see happening, you guys are the vanguard, again, because the righteous people always stand with the righteous people. Black people, white people together. So I'm here to encourage you and let you know we're going to be all right. It's going to be real bumpy. There's going to be some horrible, horrible, horrible things. Elon Musk lost a lawsuit last year. One of his plants was sued by 7 of his black workers. The judge makes a statement to him. Elon, stop treating your plant like a plantation. The people that work there, they were allowed to put nooses in the lockers and on the tables. They had the employees sit in different places. They were not promoted. They were called monkeys. This is all in this whole thing. He had supervisors. So I had no question where he was at. I had no question where Donald Trump was at. You go back far enough, his dad's got freaking Nazi stuff in the background. Wouldn't rent to black people and so on. But people always want to think about the better angels, and that's what's good. There are better angels. The better angels are often us to stand against them. So if you know that there's evil, you know that there is good. And the civil rights movement would have never been anything without people like yourself. So that's why, again, coming up here and speaking, this is a special spot for me. You guys are courageous. Just with the weather alone. You got a guy who's committed with his family. Jeremy over here is on another organization, not just us. And the people that, and the things we need to do, because that's what's happening now. What do? We have to press our congressman to continue to fight. William Tong, awesome attorney general. We're fortunate we have Senator Blumenthal, who speaks truth to power to him. Chris Murphy, Congressman Himes, some of these states. And I feel for the people, to some degree, that made a bad mistake, because the farmers are losing their shirts. You got tariffs. How's that going to be cheaper for us? Who's going to eat the tariffs? Okay. In the end, this was a billionaire's run, not just because Elon was a billionaire. The idea was we want to make the world our playground, the world our real estate property. They're talking about having Canada is the 51st state. They're talking about going over to Gaza, buying Gaza. Listen, we got the perfect place for you. We're going to take the Palestinians and we're going to put you over there. That's what, like, take the people in California. We're not going to rebuild Hollywood. We're going to put you somewhere else. I think that's better for you. That's less likely to get fired. They wouldn't go for that. How crazy would that be? There's a piece of something in Gaza, and it is called the Gaza Terminal. It has 7.2 trillion tons of natural gas. So you see, there is a bigger game going on. And we're just the pawns right here. So I appreciate you all. This Black History Month, understand that we're all in this together. I know you guys are going to support based upon what you have been doing here. From Rita Daniels, the great-great-grandniece of Harriet Tubman, and being with her last week. She spoke a lot about where we are. She feels that some of that fight we have to be ready to fight with. And she said, remember, Wayne, when we came up, we couldn't do this alone. There weren't black houses that we had to be in. It was people who were white, and we don't talk about that because we're all human beings. So that's the battle to this day, to make sure that we treat each other with respect. And those that are trying to make it different, the ones that hurt our families because America's browner and we're not going back, those are the people that are going to have a problem, because at the end of the day, American citizens, we want the rights that we deserve. And we don't want somebody telling us what to do. And I think that they're looking at something that they're not anticipating, that how much that we'll come together and do what we need to do to make sure we secure a future for our families and our friends and keep this wonderful time that we're in right now, really make it great again. Yeah. That's it for me. No problem.